Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening again, man. I want to welcome you guys back to the Conversation 9-8 and got another episode, another week, and I'm just happy to be back on, man. I hope all is well. I hope everybody's doing well. And man, I sure look forward to the episode tonight, man. Really looking forward to it. been been a little bit uh off and on the last few weeks, but I appreciate that. Been going through some just transitioning and taking some time and just enjoying myself. But all in all, man, I really appreciate it. And man, I look forward to the conversation tonight. And I'm just happy in the space that I'm in my life right now, transitioning, not only transition, but time for me to retire out of the military and on to the next chapter. I want to open up to the next chapter, but all is well, man. And I'm on here tonight, man. Looking forward to having the conversation. Looking forward to the dialogue. Again, let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you got any questions you want to engage, just let me know that. I'm gonna share this with a few people, as I usually do, and we're gonna get right on with it. But I hope all is well with everybody, and feel free to join. Feel free to join the conversation. That's all I will say on this. Outside of that, we're going to get right on with it. I do want to send a shout out to my baby girl. She's just growing up, man. I love the young lady that she's coming into, and love to see her grow, the growth that she's having, and becoming the woman that she is, and also my older kids as well. Just want to send a shout out to them. But with all that being said, man, we're gonna get right on to it. Talking about this episode tonight. I was inspired to talk about this because I just want to talk about level person accountability. I think a lot of it is I think that personal accountability is a topic that many of us don't like to talk about, but I want to talk about it. And tonight, what we're going to talk about is what you do with your life, and the choices you make is nobody else's responsibility. Like, that is nobody else. It doesn't belong to anybody else. What you do with your life and the choices you make is ultimately your responsibility. And the issue many of us have is we have this victim mindset, and we embody a victim mindset when it's talking about who is responsible for the decisions that we make. You may not be responsible for what somebody else did to you, but you are definitely responsible for the decisions you make. And so many of us, we walk around looking for somebody else to take that responsibility for our choices. And we wonder why we find ourselves stuck in the same places, all because that responsibility would never be somebody else. Even if somebody else try to help you, that responsibility will always 100% be your responsibility, period. 100%. There's nothing that you can do about it. Nothing that you can do about it. It will never change that level of responsibility. Now, I know a lot of people get upset, but they can get upset about it, but you may not be responsible for what somebody else do to you. That's not your responsibility. So, and a lot of times we tend to try to make ourselves responsible for things happening to us by other people. And that is not your responsibility. And there's a lot of help that people have to do, a lot of counseling, a lot of things that they have to work through those spaces to come to that space, especially when something traumatic happened to you. You question yourself about what role did you play in that happened to you. You may not be responsible for what somebody else did to you, but that responsibility of the decisions you make and what you do and the choices you make is definitely your responsibility, even though it may be influenced by what somebody else did to you. And that's the hard thing, because the conflict come in is like, dang, somebody else did this to me, so that's why I did that. But yeah, they may have done that to you. It may not be responsible for what they did to you, but you are responsible for your decisions and the choices that you make. You are responsible. And I know for a fact that can be hard, especially when you start talking about things that are traumatic, that happen on a traumatic level. And I'm not downplaying that. There's something that I'm not downplaying. There's something that I'm not desensitized to, but it's just a reality. It's a reality, man. It is a reality. We have The reality is we have so many people who live life looking for somebody else to come in and be responsible for their choices, to be responsible for their behavior. And that's really just them. You know, a lot of that comes from being raised in environment, being brought up in environments where they never was held responsible for their behavior, responsible for their actions. And they always was given the escape of an excuse for somebody trying to justify something for them. No, you're responsible for the things you do and the choices you make. You are, not anybody else. So you can try to put that on somebody else, but at the end of the day, it's on you. And it's up to you until you get to that space where you start accepting responsibility for your behavior and your choices. You will never move forward in life and really start living life to the fullness of for your ability until you start doing it. And you'll forever be the victim when you blame other people for your choices. You'll forever be the victim. And I don't understand why a lot of people really like being the victim, and they play that role of a victim to try to make themselves feel okay. And that's not, I'm just telling you that right now, that's not something that's going to be sustainable. Not only sustainable, but that's not something that's going to be productive in your life, period. So I don't know why we tend to do that, but that's just really how it is. But one of the things we also have to think about with that is understanding that we're not responsible. Stop looking for people to be to come in and play savior to you. Like, we look for somebody else to, and it's okay. It is okay to receive help. It is okay to have a strong support system. I am not talking about you got to do everything on your own. What you will have to do on your own is you have to take accountability for your own choices and your behaviors. You are responsible. That responsibility don't lie on anybody else. We got people 40, 50, 60 years old still blaming stuff on stuff that happened to them in their childhood. And I'm not dismissing what happened to them, but what you're going through and the consequences that you're going through right now has nothing to do with what happened to you in your childhood, and everything to do with the consequences of the choices and the decisions that you're making. That's why it's so important to heal. That is why it's so important to forgive, to get to that space to where you're not carrying that baggage and carrying that heavy weight from things that happened to you in the past. That's why it's so important. And when I say important, that's why it's so important to get to a space of healing, get to a space to overcome and be made whole. Because so many of us, and it's a sad thing, but too many of us are carrying dead weight on things of our past because we are looking for somebody else to be responsible. We're trying to hold somebody else responsible, not for the things that they did to us, but responsible for the choices and the decisions that we make based off of what they may have done to us. And that right there is, I want to, yes, somebody did something to you. Yes, somebody did something traumatic to you. They did something, they did a huge offense to you. Yes, you can acknowledge that. And they are responsible for that, not you. But whatever decisions and choices that you make in your life, right, you are responsible for those choices. You are responsible for the things that you do, regardless of the influence, regardless of what somebody else may have done to influence that decision. At the end of the day, you're going to be the one held responsible. That's why it is so important to heal and be made whole. I'm telling you, it's so important to get to that space. Why is it important to get to that space? It's important to get to that space so much because once you get to a space to where you start to heal from the offenses or things that were done to you, you start to eliminate the desire of wanting to point blame at other people for things that they may have done to you, or because once you forgive people for things or what they have done to you, now you eliminate any inkling or any desire to put the blame on them for decisions that you make. And I mean that, like, I really mean that. So many of us, we are blaming things from our past on people, and we make bad decisions based off of that. And those people may be dead and gone. Those people may not even know what they offended you on, but you have made those decisions, and you've been the one that have to deal with the consequences of the decisions and choices that you made. But yet you still here trying to blame other people for it, but you are the one responsible. You're the one responsible. Nobody else is but you. Nobody else is but you. And that's something that's hard for a lot of people to come in. I know, I've seen people, I've got family members, I know people, man. And it's sad, but it's really sad. And if you sit down and think about it, but some people spend their entire life, have spent their entire adult life blaming other people for the choices that they make. And the choices that they make impact others, and others are dealing with the consequences for your choices. You're not even dealing with the consequences for your choices. And you still out there blaming other people for the decisions and choices you made because you are trying to hold somebody else accountable for your choices. And yes, they may have hurt you. They may not have been there for you, but you're the one making them decisions. You're the one having them kids. You're the one committing those crimes. You're the one doing those things that now you're held accountable for. And now you're trying to act like you're the victim. You're not the victim. You just have to deal with the consequences of your choices and your decisions that you're trying to put on other people. And the reality is other people aren't responsible. You're the only one responsible. You are. No matter how you try to slice it, no matter how you try to put it up, no matter how you try to portray it, you are the one that's ultimately responsible. Ultimately responsible. And I tell you, I know that's a hard thing for some people to accept, but that's just a reality. That's a huge reality of what life is. And and I want people to understand this, and this is a big thing. Be careful not to go through life wanting other people or feeling like you're entitled to other people to be responsible for anything that you do. Anything. And that goes from any type of relationship, from a parent and a child, from a spouse, from a business partner, whatever. Don't try to go through life feeling like other people are responsible for your choices and your decisions. Other people are responsible for their behaviors. Other people are responsible for things that they do to you. But how you react to it and the decision that you make in reaction to that, you are responsible for that. Period. And I know that's what it is. Like, there's nothing that you can get around it. And so many of us, we have a delusional perspective of feeling like other people are responsible for the decisions and choices that we make because they may have offended us. And that's not true. That's not true. And that's something too. Like, and I will say this. And I know this is a hard pill to swallow for many, but this is just what it is. Somebody else's offense to me does not make them responsible for the choices or how I choose or my choices in response to how they offend me. And that's why what I mean by that is, and I want people to really think about it. Somebody can do something offensive to me. They can do something to impact me, impact my life, right? Yes. And I'm not talking about a life and death situation where you defending yourself or you had a right to defend yourself. What I'm speaking on is, say somebody did something to me that is offensive or hurt me. They are responsible for that action towards me. My response, everything that I choose to do in my response to them is my responsibility. I'm responsible for that. Regardless of how I try to justify it, I'm still responsible for my decisions, my choices, and my behavior. And that nothing will ever take away me being responsible for that. And so many times we feel like just because they offended me, they're responsible for my choices. That's not true. And I tell you right now, if you thinking about that, that is not true. That's crazy. Not only is it crazy, it's really irresponsible to think that. Dead serious. And the other thing is, stop. And I want people to really understand this, man. Stop blaming other people for choices and decisions that you didn't make. You didn't make them. So stop using what somebody else did to you as an excuse to justify your inactions or your inability to make good decisions for your life. Because so many people are sitting around blaming other folks for what they may have done to you to be the reason why you are mediocre or you didn't pursue the things that your dreams. So now you bitter and you blaming everybody else. But what it boils down to is you didn't make the decision. You didn't make choices to make your life better. And nobody said it's going to be fair. Nobody said it's going to be easy. Nobody said that you're going to have the biggest support system behind you. But at the end of the day, regardless, you're going to be the one held responsible for your decisions or your indecisions. You are. And your life will be a result of the choices that you make. That you make, for real. And that's something that I know a lot of people don't like to hear. I know that's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, because now we talking about and I'm curious to this too, and I just wanted to ask this question. Really, I'm curious to understand where we have created this utopia of that life is fair and everything will be easy or everything will work out favorable to you in your life. Because we create that in our mind and we feel entitled to things being done a certain way. And the reason why I bring that up is so many of us, we approach life as if everything is just going to be favorable to us. We won't be offended. No bad things will happen to us. We won't have to overcome things. We won't have things stacked against us. Everybody will agree with us. Everybody will like us. And that is so far from the truth. That's why it's so important to get to a headspace and a mind space that you are responsible for what you do and the choices you make in your life, and take ownership of that. And once we take ownership of that, we eliminate the impact of others on our lives, because we have taken control and we're not dependent on somebody else. I'm just telling you, that's really what it boils down to. And I know for a fact that impacts so many of us. The reason why it impacts so many of us, because there are many people who have not taken ownership of their lives, and they spend their entire lives blaming other people for something that they feel like they try to make other people responsible for them, the consequences that they of their decisions and their choices. They try to blame other people. Oh, well, my daddy wasn't there in my life, so that's why I got all these kids. No, you got all them kids because you made a decision to do something that you felt that it was a coping mechanism, a temporary coping thing to fill a void that you had. And from that, now you got children. Now with those children, you got responsibilities that you don't want, that you feel like other people are entitled to helping you. But the reality is you still made those decisions. You are responsible for that. So you can blame and you can feel that other people are responsible for it all you want to, but that will never change the fact that that is the consequences of your choices, period. That is 100% the consequences of your choices and the things that you do. I'm telling you, man, like that hey, good evening. How you doing? How you doing, Beverly? Good evening to you. But yeah, that is 100% from the consequences of your choice. And we don't like that. I mean, and there's so many people that get in that space, and I want people to really understand. I want people to think about it, right? We got to stop having a victim mindset and start being responsible, like really having a victim mindset. I know what somebody did to you, and I'm not dismissing it. And I talked about it earlier, but I'm not dismissive of any wrongdoing that somebody did to you, because some people that have done some bad and traumatic and horrible things to people, and people are living with that the best that they know how to. And I understand it, and I'm very sympathetic to that. But at the same point, you're sitting around waiting for those same people who offended you, who are more likely are broken people who are running from their issues, to come through and then be responsible for choices and decisions you make when they ain't even been responsible for the things that they did to you. So why are we waiting on them? Why are we waiting on them to come through and be responsible for our choices when they weren't even being responsible for their actions towards you? That's why you have to realize that you are responsible for it, and you are the one that got the key to unlock your future. You are, not anybody else. We can desire that, and my prayer is that for that to happen. But the reality is most of the time it will not. It will not. I will tell you, man, like we have to get to that space and really get to that space to where we can really tap into that. But one of the things that's easy to tap into is we have to not expect other people to come in to do work and be responsible for things that only we can do for ourselves. There are some things that only you can do, not anybody else, for yourself. Yes, other people may have done things to you, but there's some work that only you can do. That's why what you do and the choices you make are your responsibility. And once you get to that space and you accept that space and you be real with yourself and you start dealing with the realities of who you are, you realize, hey, what I'm dealing with right now is a result of my choices. I need to change my choices instead of trying to justify my choices based off of what somebody else did to me. Because as long as you try to justify your choices based off of what you did, what somebody else did to you, you're going to feel like they're responsible for your choices. But the reality is, no matter how much you try to justify, you're the one still responsible for the consequences of the choices and decisions you make. You are. Nobody else. You are. So as soon as you can get over that and deal with yourself in that space, the better off it'll be. Man, I really appreciate you guys rocking with me, man. It feels good to be back. I'm glad to be back on. Looking forward to more conversations like, hey, make sure you go and you support me on my social media platforms at the Conversation 98, the Conversation 98 on YouTube, on Instagram, the Conversation 98 on Facebook here, and the Conversation _98 on TikTok. Make sure you like and subscribe, support your boy. Hey, looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great and wonderful day. God bless.